Less than 2 weeks ago, we got probably the coldest temperatures of the season. For us, the low was 36 degrees. We prepared for these cool temperatures by watering especially the container plants. Fully hydrated plants are much more resistant to cold. I thought that we didn't get any cold damage until just very recently, and I noticed this. This plant here has cold damage. The leaves, right, are just like dehydrated. They had like cold burn, and right here at the very base of the leaf, that's healthy. It was just this part that got damaged. And the reason that this leaf, or several leaves here, got damaged is, location of the growth, but also these are very new leaves. They were very young at the time. They've matured in the last 10 days or so. And so when you get those fresh leaves that are just paper thin and very, very soft, they are very vulnerable to cold. But still, this plant is going to recover just fine. So we were fortunate that we didn't get very much cold damage at all. This is really not a big deal. But some of our viewers in other parts of Florida experienced much colder temperatures. And in fact, a few of them sent us some pictures of their cold damage and wondered what to do with their plants. So in the past few days, we have gotten a lot of questions from people who live in other parts of Florida where the temperatures got much colder than it did here. It starts with what not to do as far as what our recommendations are. If you have a tree that has lost most or all of its leaves and is just looking horrible, resist the temptation to go out there with a handsaw, because you don't want to trim off those limbs that don't have any leaves. They actually can provide some protection for the living parts of your tree against the possible next cold snap. Another reason not to cut those limbs back is that when you cut back the limbs, you could be cutting back a viable part of the tree, and also you might inspire the tree to put out new growth. You don't want it to put out new growth when we're still not even halfway through February. You want the tree to stay quiet. It's not going to be any more alive if it puts out the new growth versus not. And you just don't want to encourage new growth at this point, because the new growth, of course, is more vulnerable to the cold weather. Another thing that people often want to do is fertilize their tree. Now, fertilizing works great when you have a lot of leaves on the tree and you're not expecting cold weather. But this is not the situation for fertilizer, at least any fertilizer that has a significant amount of nitrogen in it. Just do not use it at this point. And the last thing that people really have the urge to do is water the tree. Now, if you've just planted a new mango tree in the ground, watering is a great thing to do. Terrible thing to do when you've gotten severe cold damage. Of course, it's good to have the ground not dry out completely, but if you water too much, the tree can die. And basically, of course, this is a healthy tree, so it's a bad example, but if this had no leaves on it and I kept watering it, the plant would be taking up the water in its roots, but it wouldn't have the leaves to support, and there wouldn't be any transpiration going on. That transpiration is basically the way that trees perspire. The flow of water comes from the roots up to the trees and goes out into the air. So the bottom line is that your tree might look like heck, but resist the urge to try and fix it. Just leave it alone this time of year. There's still a risk of cold weather. Don't water it unless it really needs it. Don't fertilize it, and just be patient. Once spring comes along, hopefully you'll get new buds and you'll be able to trim past the new growth and have a nice tree that can recover from the cold weather. We hope everybody's tree that got cold damaged actually survives, but the worst case scenario is if your tree did happen to die, you can always replace it. So good luck, everybody.